Well, you know what time it is.
All right, guys, welcome to our Sunday live stream at 3 p.m. We're getting restarted here, so our goal is now to uh, kind of get this show started. Thank you guys for tuning in. Sunday at 3 p.m. we do this, and 7 p.m. we do the news. Today I am with the owner of kenfamilymn.org. And you guys have seen the car on this channel already. We've done a lot to this car. We will be going and talking about the car, but we're going to start off with introductions. I'll let Ken kind of start off here, give a little bit of introduction to kenfamilymn.org, and then we'll get into origin stories after introductions.
Okay. Ken Family MN is essentially a resource hub. We connect families with resources, and also we develop programs and initiatives that will essentially help families at no cost.
He has worked with me now on a few different projects. We did an Audi that you guys saw on the channel. We did this car that you see behind us, which is an '03 Honda Accord. And we're also working on a 2016 Tahoe that will be coming up in the next few weeks. Uh, what I do is I do a lot of automotive content. My business is Bad Wrench Automotive. Also, I do automotive work openly for other people. So I do work on cars, oil changes, brakes, tune-ups, 100K services. We get into diagnostics and figuring out what's wrong with the cars and getting them running like they should back to original specification. We also do some modification stuff. We do have a vehicle that will be coming up within the next month or so. You guys will get to see it. It's LS Goat. It's an '04 Pontiac GTO. So that car will be making an appearance. Just right now, we're working on a bunch of other projects that we need to wrap up. But this is a little bit about what Bad Wrench Automotive is. I know for the people on YouTube side that I'm filming to, they already know what I do, but Ken is also filming on TikTok for himself. So giving a little origin story about me. Let's go into your origin story. What got you started? Why are we here today, and how did we get here?
So initially, it's the vehicle. With the rideshare program, we've done extremes amount of business, and I sat down with you, and I had this idea about the vehicles and the cars and how I wanted to go about it. After the initial purchase of the vehicle, we decided that we wanted to go with everything that needed to be done for extensive trips due to the usage and mileage that we will be putting on. So we need to go from basically zero to the front all the way to the back, from the lights to the bumper to the air, the radio to just everything, because essentially we're going to be putting families in this car, and we need the transportation, the process to be reliable. So we couldn't skip anything.
Okay. And what was the reason, or how did you get the idea to start this? Kind of what got you here in this process?
Okay, so with that process, it's just every time through life, I'm 37 at this point. So every time in life, I would have wanted a process like this. I would have wanted somebody at that point when I was running for a bus with my 4 or 5 month-year-old son, raising him by myself. I would have wanted somebody to be like, hey, if you're serious about wanting help, then I'll just help you. You don't have to fill out these paperworks. You don't have to go through this extensive process. We're not going to overly make this strenuous for you. We're essentially just going to help you. I would have loved that. It would have made everything so much easier, to know that I could make it to work and I didn't have to worry about what I was going to give my son to eat and what I was going to bring too, because obviously at this point I'm trying to figure it all out. So that's where the meal came from. It's like, okay, these 2 weeks are extreme for anyone that's fighting for a job position. So if we can provide them a single meal, help them get the kids to daycare, and remove the stress effect, the stress factor from the job process, then maybe it will create a more stable work environment. Maybe it will allow the individuals to stay at the company. It cuts down expenses, so now there's more of a check when it does come. It's just all of those factors that I wish I would have had. So a lot of the programs that I do develop It comes from life experience and just talking to families.
So basically, things you've just went through in your life, and you see a need where there's maybe a gap, especially with somebody just starting out fresh again. Maybe they went through a struggling divorce, or they went through the loss of a family member, or something like that. They're having to start over, and you guys, through your life experience, you're now kind of trying to fill that gap with this process.
Well, with acquiring resources, it's extreme. Um, it's very hard to navigate. It's not a clear cut system, and when you look it up, it's just very confusing on who's going to do what. And the process is organized like that because everything is grant based.
Mm.
When everything is grant based, there's somebody behind this company saying, "Hey, we will, we won't, or we're going to do this on the basis of this individual put these stipulations on us. So if you're calling us about anything other than that, then we have to turn you away." Um, and I was versed in it. I had the Minnesota Department of Health and Ramsey County School District. They sent me to a conference out in Oakland for it was about a week. I was there, and they taught me the whole structure of grants, how companies are funded, the process to acquire them, the stipulations upon who you can and who you can't help. And I had a problem with it
Yeah.
per se. I had a problem with it, but I understood the world, so I still work with that process. My that's the origin. We can get to that when you're ready for it, but um, I still work in the field of grants. But Kin Family and Men is solely based off of a no currency bartering system.
So you guys are trying to basically streamline that process to where people can get the help they need without having to deal with a lot of the hoops until they can get that process done on their end.
If there's over hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars poured into grants yearly, um, I'd rather be a resource hub to access those for families that really need it and break down the confusion of the process than be built off of a foundation that says, "Hey, only way I can help you is for this." No, I can direct you to who can help you though. If you call this number, I'm not just going to turn you away no matter where you're at or what family member it is or what's the process or how many people's in your family or where you're at. Because essentially we're not stationed to a county because we're not grant based. So if you're 100 miles away from me, but you're in Minnesota or where we are, then I can essentially assist and I will.
Now, would you say that like your life steps kind of showed you where the gaps were missing in this process? Like, is that kind of one of the big driving factors for you?
Excuse me. I was I was kind of I was a full time worker. I did sanitation. I worked in the slaughterhouse cleaning up after the kills. I make maybe $36 an hour. Um, with that process weekly, I accumulated enough money to start a landscaping company. Then I accumulated enough money to realize that I could buy, facilitate, and organize cars. So I invested into cars while still working. So it was a process of building so much and then watching it crumble, you know. And
Would you care to get into that? Maybe share with the people kind of how those tough experiences kind of changed the reason you're doing what you're doing today.
yeah, yeah. Um, well, initially, my older boy's mom, I watched her pass in my arms, and that had affected me in certain ways and manners. And I kind of poured myself into work. So I worked extremely hard, and that's where the origin of the other companies came from. But with that process, I wanted to build essentially for my son because he had lost something. So I wanted to try to replace it with items. That can be a process during that time. Um, Throughout the course, my younger son, Akram, he was, abandoned. He was left at my neighbor's when I was working. I came home, and at that point, maybe a week later, I got COVID. It attacked my kidneys and it attacked my GI tract. I was in a hospital on 4 IVs, and I had 2 blood transfusions. I immediately left that and went back to work because I had to take care of my family and I had these companies. I ended up getting into a car crash. My car spent, my car totaled, just rushing, trying to catch up. The car ended up totaling. At this point, I have my company's felon. I have my car crashed. I have a child who I'm a father, but there's a difference between a dad. Like I wasn't on a day-to-day basis with my child because I'm working 16 to 18 hours. I'm trying to build the existence. So the changing the pampers and a lot of those aspects of things I didn't quite understand. Um, and when he was placed with me full time, I called my mother and she's like, I'm like, what do I do? She's like, well, you got to step up. So at this point, with my car being totaled and being sick still, and an infant that I'm not knowing how to care for, what I do when I don't understand something or what to do next is I study. So I started applying for classes, parenting classes. I'm calling WIC. I'm asking questions, and I tried to build a knowledge base so I can figure out how to create a good existence for him, not just physically but mentally. And I realized that I need to study to do that. Just doing that work, it got me into early child development because he was 2 or 3 months at the time, and I raised him alone until he was 3. Upon the time of meeting my wife, she's been very helpful with that process now. But during that time of not knowing what to do, I'm running for buses. I have diaper bags falling off my shoulder. I'm packing up strollers. I'm pushing onto buses. I'm looking for help. I'm calling, and I'm really it can do something to a man when you're used to working all day. You're used to just getting it done, but I want to go get it done, but my son's crying. So I'm trying to figure out how to do both. So it got really extreme for me, and I figured it out. I worked hard and I fought for help when I was told I couldn't get the help. I fought harder. It was even harder being a man because being a single father is rare, and they didn't want to accurately assist me because they felt like, where's the mother and you should be working. I'm like, well, if she was here, I would be working, but this is my circumstances. And as soon as I'm healthy, I will be working again, but I need help. So that's where a lot of the company came from when it comes to early child development. Because being in these positions and fighting like I was, I experienced and saw so many mothers and so many kids and just like so much. Um,
It's tough to fill that gap, when you see people trying to do their best, and every time they stand up, you notice they're falling through the cracks. Something's happening, down on their luck, whatever you want to call it. It does come down to the people that you surround yourself with, and sometimes people don't have those people there. So having connections and resources to be able to do those things, it's something that I relate to as well. I've been turning wrenches since I was 13 years old. All the people on YouTube already know most of my origin story, but I know the people here on TikTok that we're now filming to today don't know my origin a little bit, but I'll go ahead and get into it. I started turning wrenches when I was 13 years old with my father, and we bought a truck. I helped him put the first engine in it. I drove it for a while. The engine went bad. He helped me do the second one, but I did most of the work. The motor then blew up again. That one was definitely my fault. And he said, you know where the tools are, go fix it. So, in that time and process, I really learned how to work on cars, how to turn wrenches, figure out what's wrong, diagnose problems. I'm doing this at the age of 16 on top of working and going to school. That was a big wake up call for me that, I needed to work, I needed to be able to provide, and ultimately down the road, it would require me to be able to take care of my family. So through that process, I continued growing my knowledge. I built cars, I street raced, did a bunch of things I probably shouldn't have been doing with cars, but it taught me some very valuable lessons. I was kind of forced to make a decision. If I chose to keep going down the road of street racing, it was going to either land me in jail or wind up putting me in a pine box. That decision weighed too heavy on my mind, and I had to make that decision to truly kind of walk away from that life. And when I did, I went and got my Class A. My Class A is how I provide for my family. This is what I do to give back. So My YouTube channel and a lot of my automotive business is a way for me to give back to the community, for me to share my talents, my knowledge, my experience with everyone. So YouTube is kind of my main channel right now where I'm focusing a lot of that. And it really is centered around teaching people how to keep older cars on the road. We're about to go through this car here in just a little bit of why it's so important to do maintenance. We basically took a very old car. This car is over 20 years old, and we brought it back to life.
Yeah.
How about, do you want to start off, go through some of the things that we did to it that you really felt needed to be done, and then I'll cover some of the maintenance stuff.
Okay, so essentially, with families being in the back seat, we put tents on the windows. We wanted them to be comfortable when it came to sunlight. We redid the headlights so that everything on the road can be seen to keep the driver and the family safe. Being that we're driving to different towns at different times, we really need to be able to see what's on the road. There's deer, there's other things like that to make sure that everything is accurate. The headlights were essential. So we did LED here. Um, the radio we did, which was very important because it allowed us to moderize the build, to be able to access families and their routes without getting lost, without having or running into too many issues, which was a possibility with the date of the car and the build.
Some of the maintenance that we had to do, this car was over 100,000 miles. It had about 132 or something on it when we got it. 132 or 136, one of the two, is what it had on it when we got it. We went through and looked at everything top to bottom. We noticed that they put in a new alternator that was bad. We wound up replacing the alternator, redoing the belt tensioner, putting a new belt on it. We put new coils on it because the coils need to be replaced at 100,000 miles. If you have a modern car nowadays, 100,000 miles is the cutoff for coils. If you don't change the coils, what happens is it limits the spark, can cause you to use more fuel, and it does kind of take a toll and a drain on the engine. So it's better to replace the coils at 100K. It has a lot of service on it at that point, so they need to go anyway. When you're doing the coils, you also have to do spark plugs. You cannot ignore spark plugs. So those have to be done about the same time, which is what we aim for. Next, we want to check brakes, make sure the pads are in good shape, the rotors are in good shape, that those are working and functioning properly. Also, all fluids had to be checked. The last thing we want to do is send something out that's going to freeze and cause the block to go bad and cause this motor to fail early. Obviously, we bought an older car for this purpose because we knew he was going to run this car as hard as he could to kind of do what he needed to do and get around. Through that process, we'll talk a little bit about that in just a bit.
Yeah.
I want to finish up the last of the maintenance. When it comes down to doing a 100K service, you need to be able to put hands on parts. Everything needs to be checked. Tires, brakes, fluids, filters. We even went through the engine air filter, making sure everything was good there. Let's go ahead and talk about a little bit about like how many miles you're driving with the car, how far it's going, kind of the service area of the vehicle.
Okay. So most most programs and nonprofits with grants are stipulated to a county. So if you work Sibley or you work Ramsey or you're in that area. With us, the number is for Minnesota. So if we get a call and you're 300 miles away, I want to be able to put $60 in this car and get to you and assist you. And if I have to put $60 in, for 2 weeks to get to you, but it helps stabilize your family when nobody else can get to you, that's my goal. So essentially, that being said, we are putting close to, I think we put 5,000 miles on it in 2 weeks. It was about 5,300, which is, a lot.
Yep. And honestly, that's why when he first talked to me about buying a vehicle, that was my first thought is like, okay, if he's going to drive this vehicle into the ground, let's get something that we can maintain, something that we can get parts for easily and that they're affordable. And also let's get something that will handle the abuse. Maybe
Yeah.
let's talk about why a Honda Accord.
Oh man, they're just great little cars in the aspect that they live a long time if you care for them during their lifespan. If you don't find one that's off that bad, I mean, let's talk about the gas tank. Not too many cars you can put $35, $40 in it and drive all day,
Yeah,
and
no.
tomorrow, and the day after that. So we fill the tank. Maybe gas was very big. They're very good at that. Honda Accord, Honda Civics, all of these cars during that era were good cars to have as far as transportation. And right now, they're not overly expensive. So you can acquire four of them. You can acquire three of them, and then let's say we have a transmission issue in this model, and with that year, we're not going to want to deal with that. But all of the stuff that we put cosmetic wise that we may need on our next model, we can transfer good parts. So at this point, we become our own backup source for these vehicles, and we just continue to get those to complete the fleet for the company, because we would like, essentially to step back from the process and facilitate the program.
So that kind of gets into like how you're going to build this for the future, and kind of what your guys are looking at is like number of cars you plan on adding.
Yeah.
The nice thing is you guys are not limited by grants, so you guys are not limited by counties. This really does kind of open it up, and it allows you guys to reach a bigger service area.
Yeah.
What does it mean for the future, and what are you guys looking at building for like number of fleet of vehicles, drivers, stuff like that?
I'm excited to pair with certain individuals in the aspect of the program. So with the developments of the program, I immediately communicated with who I work with on, in my world, in early childhood development, and they have contacts with so many different organizations. So I immediately went to a good friend with the Minnesota Department of Health, and I'm like, hey, I'm starting this program. She loves what I do. She, is a big advocate of everything that I'm doing in my own space, which is respectable. So I gave her the program. She immediately shopped it to families that needed it. So then I went to another organization that I work with, and they did the same thing. So it spread quickly, being that I have the correct channels. That's what the company is based off of. It's a brokerage of resources. So I have to have contact and communication with individuals who communicate with all organizations who have grants. So that way it's like, hey, you can work with me. We're not stipulated by anything, and I compare to your stipulations. So it allows me the mobility to shop the program with every organization that is grant based.
So it gives you the flexibility to work with the grants, but it provides the service to the people who maybe
Me,
aren't able to get there, or it's going to take them time.
yes,
You can fill that gap basically.
yes, sir.
Awesome. What other vehicles are you potentially looking at adding to this?
So there's so many different little programs. Always tries to get me to slow down, but I'm not. So the other one is assisting with the moving process. I want the ability to. I can't unload your whole apartment.
Yeah,
My body's been through
you're
it.
not going to go buying box trucks.
No, no. But there was a year
Yep.
when there was models of trucks that were built, just for the simplicities of things. With an engine like this that isn't big, you can put $40 in it, you can drive all day. And it's big enough to put a dresser in, it's big enough to put a twin in, tie it down. It's big enough to move a small apartment. So at this point, with a truck like that, I don't have to call anybody, and I can be a free moving service. And as long as I'm not charging for the process out of just care, legally, I can do it. And that's big for me. I check all laws when it comes to stuff. Most things become complicated when you're trying to gain something from that because somebody expects their portion. But when you say, I'm just doing this because it's part of a free, no currency platform and they need help, then it's like, well, why are you doing it? Because I care. Um,
How about you explain that platform and that program, and that's really what Ken Family MN is about, correct? It's not
yes.
necessarily the ride share; it's really
No.
the bartering system. How about we go into that a little bit?
Okay, so the bartering system, essentially, I'm a researcher. I like research. So I went to so many different meetings and I got into so many different deep arguments with individuals who have a big heart and they're very smart and they do the best they can. But my argument was always, why can't I just help? And I would get 5 million different reasons why. And they're like, well, it's just not possible. Nothing has ever been successful like that. I'm like, okay. So I start researching, and I dig, and I'm like, well, give me a organization, a company in existence that moved off of no currency that was successful. And Google says, okay, well, you got to go back. But Google's like this place. They ran perfectly. I said, well, how did they do it? He said, the bartering system. I'm like, okay, break down the bartering system. So I spent like 4 months studying the bartering system, and I'm like, excuse me, I can do this. I said, okay, so essentially, what I based it off of, the main story I've said, in meetings and said this. I said, here's the basis of it. If you have eggs and I have bread, and there's a town in between us, and we both meet there and we trade, and now I have an egg sandwich and you have an egg sandwich, aren't we both winning at this point? So that is the portion of the removal of currency. Usually you would have to stop at that place and I would have to go buy those eggs from you, or you would have to buy that bread from me. But we're saying as long as we're both okay, everything's okay. So if I seek to do something within the company, I seek it. Any company that I deal with signs a no currency clause. So if I'm looking for a keynote speaker, I need this keynote speaker to be willing to speak for free. If you can't do it out the kindness of your heart, I can speak for myself. I'm not going to. It's really just about the assistance. If you want to be a part of the process, if you want to help, I need those funds to go to a family. I don't want to touch them. Essentially, I touch no currency, but I do facilitate it going to families. I do facilitate the help. Um, if they need coats and you want to help, you can go buy 3 coats and I can introduce you to these 3 kids. And that's my process. And it cuts out that where is this money and where is it going stuff, because as soon as it gets there, you're going to see where it's going and you're going to have communication with this family.
Right. And now what does that do for taxes purpose? Like how is that kind of playing into that? And the reason I'm asking is a lot of the business people that I have on the YouTube side, anytime you have a business, you deal with taxes. You deal with income taxes, profit loss statements. You deal with expenses. These are all things you have to accurately keep track of if you have an LLC.
Yes,
So
that's
these are kind of the questions, like how are you navigating that with this barter system?
See, that's where the wife came in. She's like, babe, this is all great, but we should do this, do this, do this, and do this. And I'm like, okay. I said, I don't really want that recognition. I'm not doing it for that. I'm doing it for this. And look, I'm already trying to help this, and I'm already helping this way. And initially, Ken Family MN was just Family MN. I didn't. The goal is not recognition for the process. So the goal was that the name was developed off of everyone being a family, and this is the location. A family process, an organization of care in community instead of currency. So that's where Family and Men came from. My wife liked I had an email that said Ken Family and Men, and my wife wanted to put the Ken on front of it. She's like, let's put the Ken back on it like you had it. And I'm like, okay, we can do that. And I continue to help people because I work with Help Me Grow from 0 to 5. I strictly work for early child development in those areas for that organization. And then I work with Help Me Connect. I work with NICAD. They were the first organization in Minnesota to honor me. It was amazing. They literally called me down there. They donated a check to me in my process, and they gave me a letter. They gave me a pendant and a couple other things. And they said, we see your work. And that was big for me. I told them, I'm like, look, this is amazing. Like, I've never seen anything like this. So that was great. But it's essentially the bartering system. It allows no currency, and you have to sign that. So if we look for office space, I'm willing to trade any trade that I know, which is landscaping, vehicle acquisition. I have several different trades, and I'm willing to trade my trades or anybody else on my platform's trades to acquire what it is I need from a different company. And if we can't do anything like that, then we don't need to operate. But if there's somebody within your organization who does have a heart, who when they clock out does have communication with some resources and they would like to call and help on their personal time, because that's where I meet a lot of good people at.
Yep.
People working in grants who want to do so much more, but they can't because they're 9 to 5. But when it's 6 o'clock and I have a family that needs help, they're the people with the Ken Family of Men shirt and, assisting my process. So, that aspect of it is beautiful. So the process is different than any other nonprofit because most is built off of something, or most acquire events or other things for funds. And I do none of that. If you call, it's going to be 9 times out of 10 me or somebody I'm very close with assisting. Um, and the wider the scope is from other families or individuals who would like to pair. I mean, we're in 2 states right now. We're trying to go to three. So
Maybe elaborate on that. Like, where are you at now currently with the addition of the expansion here? Where are you located? What are you doing with that?
So in California, where my family, I have family there. My older brother, and he does office space shipping, receiving. He acquires items at a low rate from Amazon and stuff like that for families, so he consistently buys and stocks this office space. So anything that's our like with the that's our registered address. So anything that comes in, it comes legally to there and it gets processed there, and he facilitates that, and that's Green Family Admin. So he runs that portion of it, and it makes it easier here, so we don't have stuff going everywhere because we want to be everywhere. Um, and then essentially, what we're going to do is I'm going to teach myself how to make cement bricks. I am. I, I found a brick maker. I want to do it. I'm going to do it. I just haven't got there yet, but I'm going to do it. And once I do figure it out, it's going to be game over. But what I'm going to do is okay. So I'm looking at 3 small half-acre slots in Mississippi, and I want to get them along the Mississippi River. I'm talking the land that nobody wants. It's just this much trees on it, riding into the dirt. Foundation's horrible. Nobody wants it.
At least dirt to where you could build on. But
Yes, I'll add dirt. I'll add dirt. I don't even need
You'll
it to
take
have
raw
dirt.
swamp if you can.
Yes, I just want the land. So I'll add dirt. I'll bring dirt if they need me to have dirt on it. But so I'm looking for 3 of those small slots in between $2,000 to $5,000, right? I found some with very low interest rates on it with like $200 payments a monthly, but I just want to buy it outright. Then I want to lay cement. Once I lay the cement and foundation, I want to figure out how to make bricks, and I want to build my own resource hub. I want to own the land under it. I want to build my foundation. I want to build my building, and once I build my building, I'm working with a couple people to learn how to do this, and I'm also studying it. Once I build the building, I already figured out how to make 100 bricks in 6 days. But
There you go. You got the math down.
Once I build my building and I own the building, I can run electricity off a generator, right? I can essentially stock these 3 resource hubs with essentials that the families need. One family needs clean water, so I'm going to get a whole bunch of distilled water. I'm going to, just stock that. Another one needs clothes, so I'm going to teach. Got 8 kids, remember? I'm going to teach the girls how to wool. We're going to make little sweaters and stuff and hats. So I plan on producing the items that I'm giving to families. So if they need hats, I'm going to go figure out, I'm going to get a wool maker. We're going to sew some stuff. We're going to make hats. That's one town with 900 people, 50 kids. That's 70 hats a year. If we start making them in the summer, by the time they need them, it's done. So I'm going to go look at the land. We're going to take a trip out here November. I'm gonna go look at the land, see the areas. I want to meet the people, see what they need, and then start to figure out where to position these resource hubs so I can help these towns. And essentially, what it is the government. They're so small that they're like maybe 800, 700 people in these towns, and the government doesn't recognize them as needing assistance because the area is so rural. So I want to try to get there.
Yeah.
And it's just, me wanting this that's going to put me there in that position in time. So right now we're in California, we're in Minnesota, and we're pulling all the resources out there to get to there. Essentially, we're going to stock the resource hubs there and just get the stuff to families. So my brother called it a mobile dollar store without currency. He was like, bro, so basically, you're going to be handing out toothbrushes, hats, this, that, stuff you get at the dollar store, right? He was like, yes, but it's going to be on a boat. I'm like, if I have to get there by boat, I will. He's like, well, there's no roads to get there. They would have help, so you're gonna have to do boat. That's why you want it on the river, right? I'm like, well, I want it on the river because it'd be easy to connect the hubs. I could go from hub to hub. It'd be simple. But that's my biggest thing right now. I'm trying to get to that very tough. So I'm stabilizing here. I'm working on the resources there, and then once I acquire the land and figure out how to make bricks, I'm there.
Are you thinking, why are you thinking the Mississippi area? Are you thinking it
I had a
because
call.
of how much they need help? Or
I got a call. It was a guy. He was out there with some family. He's like, hey, man, I see what you're doing in Minnesota. I see what you're doing out here. And he was like, essentially, there's these towns And I got to researching, and I'm like, okay, there is these towns, and they don't have help. How is this possible? And I researching. I'm like, well, what towns connect to the Mississippi River? And they like, well, this town's 40 minutes off the river, and this town's 60 miles off, and this town's 15 miles off. And I say, okay, well, how far is the three closer points in between them, and what land from what cities are in these areas? So once I got the areas locked down and I figured out three focal points that I could essentially travel to and get the area resources, I'm in heavy communication with the individual on when to head out. And we pushed it off into November because I want to wrap up this build and the truck before taking on another project.
Yeah, yeah. Let's talk about the truck a little bit. We're adding this truck in. I know originally you said this was going to be your personal
Yes,
truck that you
that's my
you didn't want to
baby.
give to the business, but
No, that's
after
my baby.
recent talks, it's kind of sounding like
Yes, that's my baby. I love that truck. It's
so
like everything a truck should be.
yeah, yeah.
It's amazing.
So it's a 2016 or
I
is it 15?
think it's 2016 Chevy Tahoe.
Chevy Tahoe, fully loaded LTZ.
Yes, yes, the drop screen, the dash that lifts up, the big cushy seats.
Yeah, yeah.
It's heaven in a box.
So when you decide to give this into the business portion of it,
Hmm.
what purpose is it going to serve? Like what are you looking to do with it?
I'm gonna donate it. I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna put money into it. I'm gonna make it really, really nice. Um, and I'm never gonna drive it again. It's literally gonna be at 100,000 miles forever. But I bought it at 95. I drove it a bit, to get my family enjoying it, and then I told them that we would never drive it again. But essentially, not seriously. Right now the truck is worth $16,000 at its current state, um, and I would like to keep it there. I would like to keep it there essentially because I'm going to donate it to kin, family, and men, so that I want to donate everything to the company. And why I want to donate the company is to build. It takes a while to build equity up for a company.
Yep.
It's just I built a couple, and it's extreme. You really have to run its course. And I don't like running its course. So anything that I pretty much got that's valuable will essentially go to the company. So that way, when I do have this conversation, my company's not worth nothing. Even if I'm not asking for anything, the house, if it's 140K, the truck, that's 16K, that's 156, that's 3,000, 160. For a company that just started, not over a couple years, have 160K base value of just owned property that isn't depreciating is a good start.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah,
And then from there, conversations are different.
yeah.
It's like, hey, I need 10,000, but what I want to go do is get 5 cars, and I want to do this with it, and then we can help, 3,000 families. We're going to move this program a state over. And then I go pair with somebody like a state organization who is grant based in transportation, and they pair my 10,000 with 10,000. Because my last idea, an initiative that I did myself, worked, and data is everything in that world.
So
In a
proof of
world of work.
concept is what you're
Yes,
talking about.
in grants, data is everything. So if you plan on eventually pairing or communicating or getting with a like-minded organization that does assist in transportation or that does assist in any area, it's good to come to the table stable,
Yeah,
and that shows stability.
yeah. Equity for anyone that wants to run a business, equity is one of the most important things that you need in order to actually be able to buy and purchase things. And even if you're running a nonprofit or you're doing the barter system, you're still going to need to buy things. So without having equity or without having a line of credit that's
Mm.
available to you, you're not able to purchase those things. This line of credit can be attained by what he's doing.
I'm being my line of credit.
Yeah, he's basically making himself a line of credit.
Yes.
So that what that does is it takes the banks out of the process. It takes the interest out of the process. A lot of people make mistakes in business their first 5 years.
Oh man, they hurt.
Yep. What happens is they decide to go ahead and borrow a bunch of money on a high interest, and when the work isn't coming in, they still have to make that payment. And when they can't make that payment, that's what hurts. That's what folds most businesses in the first 5 years. Restaurants are a prime example of
Yeah.
that. You go in, $500,000 to build a restaurant, it's going to take you 5 years just to break even.
But with equity, your own sweat equity, um, essentially you, what is that? You have your own base. So what am I trying to say when it comes to that? It's a different position when it comes to handling uh, your finances and your company. If you can be your own bank when it comes to things, you can acquire things that in an easier manner. Um, Not per se all this. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. The interest rate on loans is way cheaper when your base is way higher. You know, when your base is this much and you want a $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 loan on 200K, you know, they're like, man, just give it to them at this interest rate because 9 times out of 10 we have access to this account and we'll just get our money back.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not an extreme conversation when it comes to it, and the numbers are a lot lower because the conversation, you have to think, once you do have a legitimate nonprofit, a legitimate business, it has its own social security number.
Yep.
You know, it is its own entity, and with backing and basing and the correct algorithms, you know, you're okay in that world, in any world really, because
Yeah.
it's business.
Yeah. And what he's talking about is an EIN. So if you have an EIN number, that is related to basically a self-operating entity. Those can be as simple as an LLC all the way up to a corporation.
Yeah.
They will all have an EIN number, and that EIN number is to track the taxes of that business. And the taxes will have to be paid.
Yeah.
So there is no dodging that tax. Now, there are legal write-offs that people get to use, and if
Taxes in 301.
yeah, taxes in 301. You know, those are the things that you can depreciate over time, your assets. Those are things that kind of help build the business. And I know we're an automotive channel, but we're branching off into the business side because honestly, that's how this whole process has started. Not only his process, but mine too. It really is, even though he's trying to do a cashless system, it's still operating within a business world.
Yeah.
And because he's doing that, he still has to fit the pieces together.
Mm-hmm. Or I can't operate.
Yeah, correct, correct. And now you're saying you're a nonprofit, so does that that adds another level of challenge? Maybe give the people, like, why is that so much more challenging, and what kind of hurdles do you have to meet in that nonprofit?
Okay, so initially I created a hyper social enterprise. And a hyper social enterprise allowed me to work with nonprofits and businesses without needing any licenses. You know, they're just a big connection piece, and it's legal. So I operated under that, you know, and the goal was to hit 50 families. But in a more legitimate setting, you know, when you make calls to churches and when you make calls to certain organizations and when you're sitting in a room in a meeting, titles are everything. You know, they say what you're doing. You know, are you for profit? Are you a business? Are you a nonprofit? Are you this? So to say nonprofit initially brings up the next conversation. What do you do? And then that's when the taxes in 301 comes in. Like, I don't receive any money coming in from anything. So then I established, because that's a whole different sector of nonprofit. There's nonprofits who receive heavily cash and they operate that, and you know, they facilitate that, they control that, they create salaries. There's different types of nonprofit. Mine is essentially built totally different because anything that comes in needs to go direct to the family. We don't have a salary. We don't want one. You know, we facilitate out of own costs.
So unlike maybe a hospital where they have employees and doctors and equipment that they're buying,
Yeah.
the nonprofit for them means at the end of the tax season, they cannot show a profit.
Yeah.
Oftentimes that might go to shareholders or board members or doctors that are on a certain board staff. But for you, there's none of that because there's no money involved.
None at all. Everything that we put into the car was invested by us. And it was off of the program that I wanted to create, and you know, my wife's vision matching mine, and together we pair and we agree and we do what we feel is necessary. But yeah, it's a lot different of a process than normal. Like even with all right, so with the LLC we have a board, right? It's three of us. It's me, my brother, and my wife. That board is controlled and governed by a collective. The collective is 8 parents from the community. And when the board makes a decision, it goes through those 8 parents in the community first. It's that like they operate, they run, we're all in, positions, but me, my wife, my brother, when we make that decision, it goes to the community board before we implement that program, before we take those steps when it comes major to our company. And that's the way to put the community higher than the individuals who you would say would be receiving money or who should receive that recognition. Or we don't want to be up there. We want the parents who were helping, authentically on that board during those Zoom meetings with that cause that says where this direction goes, because it puts the community in the process.
Kind of makes them more involved in the step, basically.
Yeah.
Maybe let's kind of branch off here on kind of one of the other topics that I really kind of wanted to cover was, where do you see your biggest hurdles for this business?
Oh man. It can be tiresome. Um, you know, you have to really authenticize if individuals are trying to utilize your sources for, to be lazy, or if they really need help. So it's a lot of heart-based process, being there, seeing, understanding, and that takes, physical energy, because I have to be there, I have to see, I have to, it's my opinion, I trust. So it puts me moving a lot. It puts me in the situation versus relaxing. So that can be a hurdle. I've learned to care for myself better, meaning try to take care of myself better, because this requires a lot of energy. I can't be in Mississippi building bricks at 110 pounds. So I'm eating different. I'm watching, trying to get sleep. I'm processing a little bit different because I want more things at this age. So age, time can be a factor. The inability to try to grasp too many tasks at once. Like I see the task, and I'll set times and moments where I should acquire or go for that task, but I don't, because I'm preoccupied with something that I feel at that moment is very important. So it's the organization of that process. Um, what do I want to attack now? Like right now, the order is the vehicles, because that facilitates the rideshare program. Um, the accumulation of items into the storage space, and acquiring land. So those are my next 3 courses moving forward. But it can be weather, it can be transportation issues. Got 8 kids. Investment of time into them also, to go through 24 hours and consistently try to help somebody else's family and pour myself into business, but miss my kid's life and miss my wife. That's not okay.
No.
So I try to invest time in both worlds as much as possible and integrate them. I bring my kids to events. I bring them to places. I want them to understand the world aspect. When I travel to get my Great Danes out of state, I brought my daughter. So I like them to see the world and to see what's going on too, so their mind is it. So that the division of family time, funds, acquiring them, investing them correctly, um, utilizing what is correct to try to brand the message to the point where the process is facilitated without me pouring funds into it, but it's just everybody networking to make sure everyone is okay. And right now, it's an investment point for me to show it's possible.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the resources. I know we've brought that up a few times here. Um, Maybe explain what the resources are to you, what you're looking for. At the end of this video, guys, I will be linking all of the kenfamilymn.org information down below in the description. If you guys wish to communicate with them or reach out to them, you guys will be able to look at the resources, or if you have the ability to help them out, you can reach them through their website. But also, let's cover what the resources are. What are they? How do they work? And kind of what are you looking for out of that?
Oh, man. Like donation wise?
Like, if somebody partners with you on your resource page, like if they're
Honest.
wanting to offer their services or their time.
Okay, so we have verified resources. These are resources with individuals who assist families and who we are verified that they have good work, that they do good work, that they're communicative. It's not a hard process to work with them, and essentially, come authentically as you are, and you're going to get help. Um, so we have the state organization resource page, and then we have a business resource page of verified vendors who I just communicated about their attributes. So we look for companies who work well with people and families who we can authenticate and display uh, their prices, what they are, what they do, and it's just the community aspect of it. I'm not looking for a $10 million corporation that's going to push you to a secretary when you call about something that was an issue. I'm looking for somebody who will get up at 7 o'clock at night and maybe bring a key to you at the airport when your car is locked. That's
I believe that call happened, and I did call you and say I can run the key to you.
so that relationship aspect. I'm looking for the individual with the heart, and an individual that has a heart I can work with, because essentially that's what my process is based off that. So it's a list of that section. Somebody who you can call if you authentically need help. They will help you. But everything, if you're looking for a resource, that goes through my resources. If you're looking for, let's say you're stable. All right, here's a good example. A family that I have helped get into a stabilized position at a job, right? They finally acquire their first car. There's 2 or 3 things wrong with it. They don't know a trusted mechanic, or they don't know a trusted whatever. They can go to this list and not lose the little bit of money they got and actually get help.
Right.
So that's what that list is for. For that portion.
So as far as the vendors that you're looking for, like if somebody wanted to reach out to you and be a vendor, what are you asking of the vendor side?
Just information on you, a direct contact, somebody that will pick up for the family. Because 9 times out of 10, it may be a position where it's a flat tire or an emergency need.
Or an after hours deal.
Yeah, so just somebody that'll pick up our way, get a hold of you, a messaging system, or an authentic connection base. That's really all I'm looking for.
What could somebody do to get onto your vendors list? What steps do they need to take if they want to contact you for that?
Yeah, if you just my number literally on Google,
Yep.
it brings up everything. But if you just go to the website, there's a whole section where you can put the information in, and then you'll be communicated with, because it shoots an email right over.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to kind of talk about before we kind of wrap it up?
No, I think we covered everything.
Yeah, I think we covered quite a bit of stuff. We've covered like kind of where the business is going, where the future is going for them, what kenfamilymn.org is really about, and we're gonna see more vehicles come through, guys.
Yeah.
Their plan is to expand this fleet.
Yeah.
And as they expand this, we're going to have to go through each and every one of them, just like we did with the green one. Now, the green one, there were some things that were missed on the purchase of it. One of them was the cruise control did not work, so we had to fix that.
I was tired. He got me. He got me on a couple of things. He was good. He wired the battery different. He had a little couple of tricks that got me.
Yeah.
It won't happen next time.
They hot wired the AC compressor, and we wound up rebuilding the AC system on this car.
Yeah, he got me. He got a couple things.
So I do offer, as far as my automotive business, I do offer a service where I will go and inspect vehicles for people. They can either book me for one dealership or just to go with them the whole day. If he knew he had like 5 vehicles lined up he was going to go look at, he could just book me for the whole day, and we'll just go to each one. I'll test drive each one. I'll make sure each one is straight, right, and true. And those are kind of the skills that he's talking about that you want to have in order to do these things.
Yeah.
You want to have the skills and knowledge to be able to reach out, help people, and utilize your talents. My channel is all about giving back. The reason I built the channel was 2 people were really influential in my life. My dad, who was a mechanic, and a friend of mine that was in the auto body field. So not only do I know how to physically fix the mechanicals, but I can also fix the cosmetics. And when somebody like me partners with somebody like Ken, we're able to help people. We're able to get them the help they need, especially when they're just starting out and they buy that first car. You know, how easy it can be to get kind of shifted on that new car. You know, how easy is it to not realize that something's wrong with the car?
Yeah.
And we try to work within that system to fix the car. We try to find cheaper parts.
It's another program.
Yep.
Right there. He got you.
So we will be talking more behind the scenes with Ken and seeing how we can partner with these guys in the future to kind of help bring the services full circle. Obviously, I do have to keep my lights on because I am a legal business.
Yeah.
But we do keep our prices low so people can afford us. And that's been my main goal in the first place. Is I'm not doing this to get rich. I'm doing this to help out. And as long as I can pay for my tools, my expenses here, parts are not cheap. And I try to keep the parts costs low. We do work with other stuff to get cheaper parts, but that doesn't always correlate sometimes. Maybe we could talk about one of the parts that were kind of a sticking point on price. Which one kind of stood out to you as a sticking point on the price?
I think it was all good. Yeah, to be honest with you, I enjoyed it. I've worked with so many different cars. When you said that, I'm like, cool, he did it. Yeah, when he came up with that one, I'm like, oh, he did it again. I'm like, this guy's just one, you know, he's on it, perfect. I have worked in so many different vehicles. I told you my best friend was a mechanic for, 20 years before he passed in. You know, the prices that you come with and deals and the understanding and where it's at and how to do it, you're the only person I'll work on any of my cars.
Yeah. Yeah, he brings me all of his stuff. If there's anything wrong, he makes a single phone call, day or night. And, if I'm sleeping, I'll call him back in the morning.
I'll knock on the door.
If he knocks on the door, then I'm up. But yeah, this is what we did with this car. And this is why, guys, maintenance is so important. When we skip maintenance, it snowballs. And the snowball effect is what the overall cost winds up being. You can take a $2,000 car, stick another $2,000 into it, and now you have a reliable car. Or you can buy a $5,000 car, stick $2,000 into it, and you're getting the same car, but you paid way more for it. So this is an example of what we did here, guys.
Yeah.
We're going to go ahead and wrap this one up, guys. It's been a long one. We've talked about pretty much everything we could for kenfamilymn.org. Guys, I want to say thank you for all your support. Today has been a really good show. Please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, ring that notification bell so you get notified when I go live, which is every Sunday at 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. is our news cycle. Guys, thank you, and I'll see you on the next one.
I held it back. Did she get it? She got it. All right, it was 30 minutes. I'll be right back.